comrades. This is Chief Guard of the Republic Veterans Radio Shoutout Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday noon until 2 on WRMN 1410 AM. You can stream us live from WRMN1410.com, or you could go to the WRMN 1410's YouTube channel and watch us live there. Our shows are all updated there, and then we upload them to our own channel, Chief Guard of the Republic channel on YouTube. And if you're wondering what the bugle call is, that's the fixed bayonet bugle call. So the Army has a bugle call for almost everything, and that's the fixed bayonet one. And everyone else had their lead-ins, but I just loved it. I think that the last command you ever want to hear in combat, the absolute last command you ever want to hear, next to everyone surrender, which is bad too, is fix bayonets, because that's when it's going to get beyond real. All right, and so Paul, what's up?
Well, Mike, I'm here. Got my cowboy hat on. I'm here to ride to the rescue with what I can, and also let you know I'm one of the good guys with the white hats. And I know you're kind of amped up about today, and so am I. But there's some strange analogies to some stuff in my career that I think we're going to talk about in relation to this. Yeah.
So starting off with a quote, everyone likes to pick this quote and attribute it to them. But apparently, according to the internet thing and AI, it's quoted to Benjamin Franklin. I'm sure he heard it from someone else, but he was a pretty clever guy, all right? So it says, 3 men can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. I think the Hells Angels also took that to heart.
That was one of the first things I learned on my first day in college. 3 men can keep a secret if 2 are dead, and organization is the mobilization of bias. You tell me how a system's organized, and I'll tell you and show you who benefits, where, when, why, and how.
Oh, absolutely. People are going to, you're going to make everything to benefit yourself. Most people make everything to benefit themselves, Not everyone is Christ-like and truly Christian and doing things to benefit the community, because, if you're part of the community, what did Reagan say? A rising tide lifts all boats, right? So if everyone's improving the community only gets better. But if you're the only one working to improve the community, that's a rough job. So I think, what's cool is we've almost been 2 years now. Like in September, it'll be 2 years that we've been doing this show, which is awesome. And we've been repeating some themes and getting even deeper into it and learning more about this stuff and how it reflects and everything. Like something happens every week that gets me a little amped up. And that's what I want to talk about, because if it happens and it's in the news cycle, then we're being timely about it. And bring it to heart to me in military intelligence in the Army. All right, 38 years of military intelligence. I worked human intelligence. I worked crypto intelligence. I worked electronic warfare. All right, so I worked psychological operations, but I had the TS clearance at the highest level, read on, and doing stuff real life, right? Doing stuff absolutely real life, tactical, on the ground, lives mattered on it, right? So I understand, and I went through some of the top schools in the Army for this, right? Because I was Military Intelligence Chief Warrant Officer 5. So when I went to Fort Echuca, the center of the military intelligence schools, right? Chief Warrant Officer 5, they're like teaching me all the good stuff and stuff I probably already knew. But one of the things I always took to heart is sometimes you just need to keep your mouth shut. Absolutely shut on things. All right. So we have a senator that comes out, and he's a senator. He's an elected senator, and he was in the military. And he was a senior field grade, much like myself, a senior field grade officer. That means you're right below general, and you're above all the other field grade officers, all the company grades. You're the guy that runs the services, all right? At that level, The generals don't really run things. The generals are more or less figureheads, and they're chief executive officers. But their branch, their vice presidents down there are all these colonels, these 07s, career guys, more than 20 years in, been around the block, but they pretty much know they're not going to make general, but they're still the cogs in the system that make things run, right? So they've received the training. This guy should have received training just like me. On top of that, in the military, that's where his clearance originates. Every congressman has access, not necessarily clearance, right? They don't necessarily have a background investigative clearance. Some of them couldn't pass a background investigation, all right? They absolutely couldn't. Their life, their background, and everything. There's no way they're going to get a federal security clearance. But based on the fact that they're in Congress, they have access to information so long as they're on one of the committees. So not every congressman could go in there. They still compartmentalize it because you still have a need to know. What's your need to know? If I'm a congressman, I'm not on any committee, right? And all I'm is a voting guy, I really don't have a need to know any of this. Really, the minutia of everything, the fine stuff, So those guys they're not getting what we call read on. So this guy, when he was in the military, being an astronaut and whatnot, a lot of classified stuff goes through NASA, right? So I am absolutely positive he has signed an SF-312, which is a non-disclosure agreement. Before you sign a non-disclosure agreement, which is basically keep your mouth shut, and you're writing down you write down, you sign it, and you go, I have been advised to keep my mouth shut. And here are all the reasons that I agreed that they told me this. And every time you get read on, no matter if you've been read on 50 times before, you still got to sit through the movies. You still got to sit through these little movies, these little slideshows and everything, and sign down that you've been advised of the consequences of disclosing any of this information. So I'm sure he signed that once or twice. Maybe he has a short-term memory. Maybe he has a memory problem where he's forgotten this stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. That was years ago when I signed that disclosure statement. I forgot. Oh, what a great pick for an astronaut, right? But he comes out and he makes a statement about the general status of our munition stockpiles. But he's very specific on what types, all right? Now, here's a little story for you. When I was working as a detective, they had a homicide in the 13th district. And it turns out by investigation, kid's walking down the street with a gun. And he starts blasting at the other gangbangers sitting on the porch. They all book to the gangways and the backyards and everything. They get out of the line of fire. Then the kid runs out of ammunition and he shouts to his other buddy gangbangers, I'm out of ammo, as loud as he can. He really does it. Like someone's going to come and run in and give him a reload, right? But he shouts this, and all of a sudden, all the other gangbangers, they come out of the alley, they come out of the gangways, out from under the porch, and they chase this guy. One guy gets into a car, right? Now this kid's in the alley, right, trying to get through, and bam, he gets hit by the car and knocked out of his gym shoes. Now, because he's not running as fast, having been hit by a car, and the car just keeps going, right? The other gangbangers catch up with him and beat him with 2x4s. Then one guy comes and he has a loaded gun with this, full of ammo and shoots this kid 5 times. Dude would have been fine. But what did he do, Paul?
Opened his mouth.
He opened his mouth. He opened his mouth, man. So why would, all right, so that's sort of the thing, right? You're turning on yourself. Well, you're not supposed to be that stupid as an astronaut or a congressman. You got to say, oh man, this is brutal. I got this briefing from the Department of Defense. I'm going to have to do something about this. right? And what does he do about it? He does, I wrote this down because this is great. This is great. All right? The difference between a whistleblower and a snitch. All right? Whistleblower reports systematic wrongdoing, all right, for the public goal. Good, for the public good, right? So there's systematic wrongdoing. Being underarmed, right? Not having sufficient munitions and everything is not a systematic wrongdoing, all right? For the public good, all right? A snitch informs on others to protect themselves or out of malice for personal gain. Do you think Senator Kelly has any love for the current administration?
No, there's rumors that he wants to run for president.
So I think that he's did it out of malice for personal gain. So basically, he's a snitch. He's not a whistleblower. All right, so we got a call on. I've been waiting for her. Let's hear. Hey, John, you there?
I am.
This is Navy John from Dunkin' Donuts Veterans. We meet
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, hi. And let me put in the plug. We meet every Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Currently, it's 1739 West Dempster. But after the 1st of June, we'll be out at the Bunker Hill Woods at 9 o'clock on every Tuesday. All right? So, John.
That's right.
What's up?
Yes, sir. Not much. Just call to say good morning, hello, or afternoon, hello.
All right, so John called in 2 weeks ago when we're doing the 501c3 and C19 stuff, and he called in about the honor flight, all right?
Right.
And he
donation to the honor flight.
So, you go to the Honor Flight's website, and they have a donation button right there. You could do it, and they always have fun. They'll have a list of fundraising events where you could support them by going to the fundraising event. Or he wanted to know if you go directly into a bank and deposit the money directly at a bank. And I found out that you got to go to the Newmark Bank, Numark. So you could Google it. I'm not going to put any more plugs in for them, but they're around the area, all right? And you go find, and I understand because we did talk about like some fraud and everything. And you go to the bank and you say, I want to donate this to the honor flight, and they will put it directly in that account. So there's no charge for the credit card fees. You don't got to put a stamp on it. You don't have to drive to the fundraisers or whatever. You just do it right at the bank there. You don't have to write a check. You could use cash. So what else you got for us, John?
That's all. That's Numark, correct?
Newmark, yeah, Newmark Bank.
Got it.
All right, thanks.
Are you going Tuesday?
Yes, I am going Tuesday. So we're all going to be downtown. Tuesday, we're not going to be at Dunkin' Donuts. We're all going downtown. We're going to meet at the VFW on Caldwell and Toohey over there. And they got buses for us to go downtown to the Harold Washington Library to see the dog tag display of all the fallen soldiers from Vietnam. Now, I remember when that was on 18th in Indiana. They used to have the Vietnam art cafe. So it was for Vietnam veterans that were artists, and they displayed, what do you call it? A studio. So it was like a studio, right? And they had a cafe there, and those dog tags were all hanging from the ceiling over there.
It's a gallery.
Gallery, yeah, the Vietnam Veterans Gallery. Yeah, so Matt, right on top of things, man, right on top of things. Again, as you can see on our YouTube feed there's the dog tags, and they actually have a computer. They have it computered where if you type in the veteran's name, they'll tell you exactly where in that whole thing of 57,000 dog tags, roughly 7,000 dog tags, where it's located. Now, I believe that after they take this down from the Harold Washington Library, it's going out to Aurora, to the...
No, it's going to Kenosha.
It's going to the Pritzker Library in Kenosha.
The Pritzker Library in Kenosha.
All right. The Pritzker, they used to be real good to the veterans. Shouldn't say used to, but I remember when they had a free military ball for veterans, and it was downtown at the Pritzker Library, and it was a 5-star affair. So it was really cool. So I got to give that to the Pritzker family. Thank you so much. And All right, thanks a lot for. Yeah.
Mike, let me ask one more question.
Okay.
Those dog tags, are those guys that were found after they died?
Oh no, I think they remade all those dog tags.
They recreated them.
They recreated them.
Okay. Now, are those guys fallen?
Yeah, they're fallen. They're not just veterans. They're the KIAs, and I believe MIAs might be there. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
The same guys that are on the wall. The same guys that are on the wall.
Gotcha. Okay. That's all I needed, sir.
Thank you, Navy John.
Hey, have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So in the military, you find out you're short of ammunition, right? Your commander, or you're even, let's say you're a sergeant and you're supply guy, right? And you're like, holy cow, we should have 90 days of ammunition, right? Like if we went to war, we wouldn't have to have resupply for 90 days. That's how much we should have on hand to go out with. How much are we going to expend? And if you don't have that, you don't go to the press the first thing and say, hey, we don't have enough ammunition here at my battalion. And now all of a sudden the Chinese, the Russians, all of our adversaries, the Iranians, all the people, the North Koreans are going, such and such battalion doesn't have enough ammunition. So you could extrapolate a lot of information from that. Here's the thing, right? It's extrapolating information. You may see one thing, but the enemy can extrapolate other things from that. So the reason things are classified and we don't talk about them is not because the information itself is classified. You could get that information from other sources, right? You could go and study and go to libraries and check this and check the position, global position of the Earth and the way that shadows are falling, and you get out your crystal ball and everything. But information is classified because of the way it's obtained or who we get it from. So if that information, if all of a sudden the Russians figured out that we had information that they didn't know we had on them, right? So we have information, and that gets leaked that we have this information. One, the Russians can plug the leak, or in certain cases, they can plug the leak by putting a bullet in the guy's head that gave us the information. Now, usually, that guy took years and years of recruiting, training, grooming, molding, and everything. And that they've had relationships with case officers and everything else. I'm not going to go into all the tradecraft involved, right? Everyone's seen the movies and everything. And when that guy gets burned, that's a great loss for us. So we're protecting that guy, whether he needs to be protected or not. It's the information he's given to us. Once you plug that leak, that information ceases to flow. And that might be critical information to protect us. So the other thing is methods. We might have some super new AI drone, whatever, or read my novel. I'm gonna bring out another novel soon. I'm wavering on it. I got to get back into it. So it's going to be the third novel in my series. So I Married a Bot Madam. The Daughters of Bot Madam, and this is going to be about the broods of Birdbot, and it's about a NSA pigeon drone, the pigeon drone that becomes sentient, all right, in a way. But yeah, so let's say something like that. It's all urban legend, that the pigeons are all reporting on us and everything. But let's say that, that actually happened and no one had known about it. And now I come out and I've verified that is exactly what's happening. And I had the clearance and the access for it. And all of a sudden I'm a media darling for a day. And I'm like, yay! And I'm getting offers for a book tour. I'm getting offers for this. I'm getting offers for that. And then a week later, I find myself in federal prison. Because I'm just a little guy and I opened my big mouth, which I shouldn't have done. Because I just put millions and millions and millions of dollars of the federal government at risk. It gone. And millions of effort and stuff. And we can embarrass the government. Like, I didn't know you were doing that. You said you wouldn't do that. We had an agreement. You told us that you wouldn't do that to us, and then we find out that you had been doing to us, and it blows the agreement, and you guys have no credibility anymore, which ruins us on the stage. Even if that is so, right? Even if that is so, you're not having signed that non-disclosure agreement. It's not up to you to do the cost-benefit analysis on that. The only time you have, right, and when you sign a non-disclosure statement, it doesn't say that you can't be a whistleblower. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that one bit. But you know who you whistleblow to, Paul?
Who?
The Office of the Inspector General.
Well, that's not whistleblowing. That's going forward.
Yeah, but you know who you don't whistleblow to, Paul?
The press.
The press. That's right. You don't air the laundry in public. And I've seen how it works, and it does work. It's amazing, It's amazing. They try to make them stand alone, right? They do the training out at Fort Belvoir, and it's some fantastic training, The Inspector General's office school is out there. And these guys, they are looking to keep us clean. They are looking to keep us efficient. They are looking, to make sure that, like you, Paul, we are always wearing that white hat. All right?
Let me ask you something, though. This has always been when I was working, you always have to take an ethics exam every year. Otherwise, you can't work. They talk about whistleblowers, and they got the real neat cartoon with the guy blowing the whistle and pointing and everything like that. If I mention to you a guy by the name of Mark Felt, you know who he is?
No, I never heard of him.
You never heard of him?
I may have, but it's not in my memory. That penguin has jumped off the iceberg.
Well, the question was, no one ever heard of him because nobody knew who he was. You know who he was?
Who was he?
Deep Throat.
Oh, okay.
He was an FBI agent from the time of Hoover. And he's the guy that spilled to Woodward and Bernstein.
Yeah, okay.
And he was a career FBI agent. He's probably the greatest whistleblower of all times.
Okay.
And no one's ever heard of him other than Deep Throat.
All right, so when we come back, we're going to talk more about the 7 reasons why you should keep your mouth shut. WRMN 1410 AM, WRMN1410.com, which has really good. I was driving in today, and it wasn't until way after Hanover Park when all of a sudden I got decent reception. And most of that is because there's a lot of power lines along Irving Park Road. I just drive down Irving Park Road. See, I shouldn't be telling them that because the terrorists could be waiting for me anytime between 8:30 and 9:30 on Irving Park Road. Here comes that nasty radio guy that doesn't like us, Mike Tooman, driving down Irving Park Road between Cumberland and what's the end here? Douglas. Well, Irving Park turns into Chicago Avenue here in Elgin, and then it's one way, so I can't actually go to Douglas. I got to make a right, and then I got to make a left.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
You know what's the best way to spot a tail?
Now, listen, I didn't get that much tradecraft training, but usually you just look for reflections in mirrors and stuff like that.
No, go through a cemetery. drive through a cemetery wherever you're going, and then you really throw them off, and you can see it real far. Just go out a different exit. They have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah. Or go visit someone you don't even know.
I've done that.
I live there's a bunch of cemeteries there, you know. Well, maybe he's going home. Maybe he's drunk again. Anyway, so
hey, Mike, Cleveland Dennis wants to know, is there any way you can get photos of one of those dog tags? He's got two friends that he needed to get pictures of them, and he was wondering if, I looked, I can't find anything. Maybe he could contact them.
You could contact them. The only thing, you know what? If it's online, I'll look. Cleveland Dennis, when I'm there on Tuesday, I'm going down there Tuesday, and they might have a kiosk set up where I could type in names. So if you would text the names of these guys or put it in the comments there, all right, I'll look them up when I'm there.
You can. I just looked it up. So there is an interactive kiosk. You can look up the
does it pull up the picture like a dog tag?
Oh, I don't know.
Because sometimes, so what we did at our post, our American Legion post, we've been around for over 100 years, but they may have had a past commander's plaque in the day, but we went through a couple commanders that were quasi hoarders where you didn't really have a lot of storage space where we're at. And when they died, great guys, both of them, great guys. They had a lot of our stuff. These guys, great guys, but their wives just went boop and got rid of it all. So we lost a lot of stuff. But I says, hey, let's have a past commander's plaque. But they wanted $37 for each little thing for each commander, and we got over 30 commanders. It would have cost us about $2,000 for this plaque. We ain't got those deep pockets. We'd rather spend the money on helping veterans than the money on a stupid plaque. So our commander Bob made the wooden plaque. I actually went out and bought a dog tag machine, really old dog tag machine, and man, what a pain in the butt it is to use, because it's not exactly, this is like a pre-World War II machine. But I went online, and 99 cents a piece, I had these dog tags made up. Just the name of our commander and the past commander and the years they were past commander. And then we put the dog tags on the plaque. So, we'll look for it. But, you could duplicate that depending on what year. I know I got the dog tags for my dad and my uncles, right? And some of them were World War II, some of them are post-Korea, some of them are the time between World War II and Korea. So they had different formats. And, of course, one of my uncles was in the Air Force. Back in the day, they had your next of kin on there. So my Uncle Mitch's dog tags have my grandmother's name on there because she's next of kin. So we all know the current format is last name, first name, middle initial. They don't do, I ain't got it with me. They don't do the Social Security number anymore. They have your service number. So they went back to service number instead of Social Security number. And they got your religious preference. So we'll see if they have images of them. All right. I'm sorry. I'm coughing. All right. So Cleveland Dennis sends those names. I'll go look for them. All right. So here are, I ran through AI, just because I have fun with this AI stuff. I go, what are the top reasons for keeping your mouth shut? And it didn't take it as classified information, but it just says, 1, to avoid regret. So if you don't know what to say, don't say anything, and you won't regret saying it. You might regret not saying it, but I think it's a little less regretful to not say it, but then to say it, because once you fire that bullet, you can't bring it back. Words have meaning, even though sticks and stones. If you don't talk so much, people listen. Unless you're a radio show host, right, Paul? If this was just dead air, you prevent gossip. So by talking, you can increase gossip. And I used to say in the military, every once in a while I experimented with it as a PSYOP experiment, which I shouldn't have been doing on our own troops, especially our officers. Right? And I would start a rumor, hey, we're getting out early today. Did you hear we're getting out early today? And I tell everyone we're getting out early today. And suddenly the commander, who never had intention to let us out early, figured out we had to get out early today for some reason or another, and he let us out early. Start that rumor, a self-fulfilling rumor, all right, to protect legal rights. All right, so you have a right to privacy, right, Paul?
You do.
And I talk about someone out of hand, I'm kind of violating their rights. But, is that just idle talk, or am I actually saying something that I shouldn't have access to, and I'm putting it out there for them on there? Now I could be liable, maybe. It builds mystery.
That's true.
Quiet guy doesn't talk, builds mystery, which is, there is something that really, it's a double-edged sword, because when you're talking about classified information, like UFOs, what do they call them? UPOs or something? They changed them. Someone got a medal for changing the name of a UFO to something else.
UAPs.
UAPs.
Unknown aerial phenomenon. In fact, I'm doing a series on that on my YouTube channel, but I'm highlighting the real astronauts, not the little green men that they're talking about. But now UFOs are UAPs now, unknown aerial phenomenon.
Well, I still call Taiwan Formosa.
As it should be.
All right, so if you build too much mystery into that, people want to know about it. So now you got people digging. If you, like you said, if you want to eat an elephant one bite at a time, if you want to get through all the safeguards for the classified information a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, and then suddenly you put the whole picture together, right? And so too much mystery could be bad, right? De-escalates the conflict. There's the key. That one jumped out at me. So if I've got the enemy, right? If I've got the enemy on his heels, right? I've got him on his heels. I've got my adversary on his heels, nearly ready to go down. I've destroyed their will to fight almost, right? And I'm like waiting for it. And some guy says to this guy, whispers in his ear, I have it on good authority from us, our own people, that they're going to run out of ammo soon. Just hold out for a couple more days and you'll be good. Did that de-escalate the situation, telling him that?
No, it makes it worse.
It makes it worse. He escalated the crap. It's escalated. It's like an intentional thing. Like he wants us to lose. Why do you want the USA to lose? You don't like it? You didn't like that it happened? I didn't like a lot of things that happened under the other regimes.
It goes back to our stories about this stuff with vilifying the ICE. It's all done to be self-promoters, to slingshot yourself into some weird, demented public idea that you're, all good and you're, the hero, so that they vote for you. It's sad.
So here's my thing. All right, left or right, good or evil, liberal or conservative or whatever. All right. If they're putting out private information that they signed a non-disclosure act to, all right, because they're on that committee and they're putting out anything about that meeting, anything about that briefing, how hard it is to say, I'm not at liberty to discuss this at this time. I'll be making a statement in the future. I will look into the issue, right? Simple. I was there. And I have some serious information that I need to work on, right? Not good or bad or whatever, right? But use your position. Keep your mouth shut. Don't give aid and comfort to the enemy. Aid and comfort. I mean, that's the big thing of treason right there. Aid and comfort to the enemy. I mean, one thing why I'm not a federal judge, right, Paul? Do you have to be a lawyer to be a federal judge?
Yes.
How long would it take me to get to, are there states here that I don't have to go through law school to take the bar?
There's a couple of basically online and mail order law schools. I think there's one, the Inter-American University in Puerto Rico, if it's still around. And until recently, you could do it like on weekends at Cooley College in Michigan, but I don't know if you can do that anymore.
I just have my AI bot take all the classes.
Right.
Assign it to me. Get my piece of sheepskin. Take the bar exam. Pass the bar exam. Get assigned as a federal judge. You know? And the reason they don't put me there is because if that case came in front, let's say I was a prosecutor or something, that case came in front of me, or I'm an FBI agent, right? I'd go after that guy. Absolutely. That's counterintelligence 101. You open your big mouth. So here, this is where, now I'm looking into this stuff. I'm like, all right, under what circumstances can I blab? One, if I blab as a whistleblower, I go through the process and I use the Inspector General's office. All right, I go through the Inspector General of whatever agency I work for. If I really feel that that's deep state and everything else, I've tried all my options. I've documented all the options that I've tried. If I really feel that this is a top-notch danger to the U.S. public, and I'm really, as a 63-year-old guy with 38 years military intelligence experience, 27 years police experience, I'm adding this all up because I'm not some E4 that came out of the Army after 3 or 4 years, had a security clearance, went to NSA to work for a year or two, and then blabbed my mouth off, right? Because I didn't think it was right. Because I have all the experience of a 27-year-old. Not that some of them aren't experienced. I'm not hitting this, the generational gap there. But there's a difference, right? There's a difference. He didn't go through the whole system because he's too. I'm not even going to mention his name. He's rotten over in Russia. All right, the guy personally disgusts me. All right, and all right. So under what circumstances? So let's say I get subpoenaed into court, and a judge says, "I want you to testify on this." All right. And now that's one of the things that I've signed a non-disclosure act on. All right. And maybe I actually want to testify on it. Maybe I want to bring this out, right? But it would cause problems, right? So he could compel me to testify. Of course, the first thing I'm going to do is plead the fifth. Because I'm going to say, hey, if I even talk about this, I'm violating the non-disclosure statement. And then I'm going to prison for that. So you can't compel me. But then the judge says, well, no, I can, because I supersede the non-disclosure statement. So it's like that non-disclosure statement is no longer good. I says, well, still, you're not cleared for this. You don't have access. So that's when you get the Department of Defense lawyers involved, right? That's when I would have to call them and say, listen, this is happening. And in the worst case, I might have to sit in jail a couple days. Well, these lawyers come up and say, hey, what are you doing? Now, let's say I give up the information to the judge, and it should be in a manner that where you don't have a whole gallery of people there, like in Cameo. Now that information's out there. Now,
camera. They call that in camera.
Yeah, in camera. So now it's up to that judge. So I spill my guts on all this stuff, right? The judge has a near heart attack, right? Doesn't know what to do. But now, guess what? He's got to protect that information. If that information leaks from his office, bye-bye, judge, you're going to prison. So he basically takes on my role to protect that information because now he wants it. Might have nothing to do with the case.
Can I give you an example of something like that? Years ago, and this wasn't my case, but it ended up being my case. There was a girl in our office, a lady, and she had this case, and they put me on it, okay? And what we used to do is when you have financial crimes, you have a lot of records, which 99.9% of them mean nothing, but you give them everything. And then you bait stamp them. You have numbers, So one day I'm looking through the records, because I want to get fully informed and everything. And there's I'm making this number up, but say it's Bates number 154 to Bates number 177, And there's a statement in here, and it kind of goes like, yeah, I know what's going on. I knew what I did. And the theory was that he was giving money away of the business. He himself was not paid, but he was giving money to other people for some reason. Okay. And it would go from 154 to 177. It goes, I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I own the business too, and I'm restrained by this agreement, and I don't care, and I'm going to make sure that I destroy this business. And
he's violating his fiduciary responsibility to his investors.
That too. But he's given this whole confession, right? And it's the most unbelievable confession I've ever seen, because it goes into, I know I should be paying taxes on this, but I'm not, and all this stuff and blah 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 blah. So it was a big law firm. They're kind of big. They've represented some major people recently, So I call him up, I call up the associate, and I go, hey, I'm going to just say his name's Mac, but it wasn't. I go, hey, Mac, so your guy's going to testify, huh? And he goes, Paul, you're a lawyer. You know that I don't have to disclose that, and some client my client isn't compelled to testify. It's his choice. I go, yeah, I know. But I said, you're such an honest guy. Why in God's name would you give me his whole confession? And he goes, what? Mm-hmm. I go, yeah, go get your documents, 154 to 177. And then it was the, wait a minute. He hangs up, right? Calls me back. His boss calls me back down. Hey, Paul, he goes, that was, now it's funny because up to this point, I'm
that
talking.
Company, wait, can I interject? Did that company lose their license to practice?
No,
they should have.
But that's what I want to get into, though, the ramifications of this. So this was in the 90s, okay? And there was nothing on this, okay? And he said, Paul, that's an inadvertent communication. And this is where I'm getting into. He goes, you need to return that. I go, well, nope. I said, here's the deal. You can't unring the bell now. This wasn't my fault, okay? You didn't catch it, which you should have, which goes to your point. But I go, you did not catch this. And I go, here's what we're going to do. And I said, and I asked the lawyers from that courtroom, and they were dumb as a box of rocks too. And one of them's a judge now. I said, what happens if somebody gets some inadvertent communication that they shouldn't get? Well, I don't understand what you're saying. So anyway, so what I told them was, I said, I'm going to take these documents and we're going to put them in an envelope, okay? And we're going to seal it. And we're going before the judge, okay? And we're going to spread this of record, and he's going to hold us, as you said, in camera. And then, and only then, if he testifies, will I be able to use it, and I'll get it from the judge. And so we went before the judge, and I made my case, and he agreed with me. Now, the important point is, there was no ever ruling case opinion on this up till this point in time. Okay. Yeah. And subsequent, the issues come up a lot. And the American Bar Association has an opinion 92-368 and they say you can't unring the bell.
There you
now,
go. Well, that's the Bar
ramifications-
Association. That's not the Supreme Court, but okay.
Well, no, but they go by this when they make these rulings. Now, the problem is, by their and this could be intentional, by the way, and I'm getting to this about these whistleblowers. They could have, in theory, prevented me from being on the case and forced, it could be a delaying tactic, and forced the case to go to another special prosecutor. They could have done that, all right? But if they went forward, and they did go forward, and we went to trial, and you want to know something? The guy, he never testified. So were his rights violated? Were the people's rights violated? Were the state's rights violated? And the answer is yes, yes, and yes.
Everyone's. His rights were only violated by incompetent representation.
Right, but that goes to another point. Had there been a conviction, because you asked me this earlier in the week.
Incompetent
Had
representation.
there been a conviction, one of several things could happen. Nothing. The conviction could be sent back for new sentencing. It could be sentenced. It could be sent back for a new trial, or it could be sent back and for directed finding of not guilty. So when you have these kind of situations, you always got to wonder if it isn't done intentionally, and if it isn't done for some ulterior purpose.
Oh, dude, now you're in my world of the overthinking world, Paul, and that's where we are, because we're critical thinkers, and it's the overthinking thing. And you get this, and they're like, did they do this because they were stupid and incompetent, or did they do it because they're going to use it in the future to overturn any conviction?
Well, yes, the guy got convicted.
Dirty tactics.
And it all worked out okay. But in the case of the secrets, okay, see, I'm not, a lot of people talk about whistleblowers and things like that. And, I'm not really big in favor of that. We call those people confidential informants in my trade. You know what I'm saying?
We'll get to that in the next section. This is a good show because, a lot of things I want to talk about. I'm not being held mute, and I'm not digging for subject matter. All right, and got the nice patriotic music going. The Republic Radio Show with your co-hosts Paul Burvitt and Mike Tuman every Saturday noon until 2. We're on the second half of the hour, the downhill, which is kind of sad. I'd be here all night, man. I think really right now on this subject, I'd go forever. We might have to do this subject, add on to it next week, Paul, because this is really. So now we get to what you said, inadvertent release, all right? And what do you do with it? So you find $20 on the street. There's 1 million people around, right? No one's looking for the $20. Guess it's yours, right? You go spend it, or you go give it to the church or something, right? Now, so like you said, they're saying that you inadvertently came up with this information because, they weren't supposed to send it. It would just be the right thing for you to do to send it back, right? But you can't unring that bell. So you can't unring the bell. Once you have leakage on a classified document, you got to assume that everyone knows it, right? And you got to go in and you got to start protecting your sources. You got to, if let's say you leaked the guy's name, man, dude, you're burned. Get out of there. You got to go and get him out, right? Get him out. Get that out. You got to go protect whatever machine or electronics or whatever. You got to go save that stuff, right? Because you got to assume it's burned, right? That everyone knows now. So you got something out there like WikiLeaks, right? Like WikiLeaks, right? So dude doesn't actively coerce people or pay people. People just upload this stuff on, I understand they have a secured unknown, kind of bounces around the dark web where you could upload these files and then he gets them down. I mean, you could email them to random email addresses and then some of that stuff goes up and down, can be chased. There's all sorts of ways to cover your trail on that. But he's not actively recruiting these people. They know it exists, and then they go and do it anyways for whatever reason, because they want to play that they're a spy or whatever, right? So is he guilty of publishing this stuff? Well, there's a double-edged sword on this, sweet and sour, right? And there's a sweet and sour. Okay, it's sour because all of a sudden this information is leaked, all right? You got the leak. It's in the open now. It's in the open. It's in the clear. Holy crap, what do we do, right? Here's the sweet part. Hey, who could have got that information out? Who was the last to access that? Oh, it was old Chelsea. Well, what was her first name? Brian? No. Manning.
Bradley.
Ah, look, we traced his logins. And Bradley did this. Oh, so guess what? Now we plugged the leak, all right? So it's kind of like a sweet and sour. Now we got a leak, and he could have done a lot more, but it's published up there. And I'll tell you what, man, I swear, it's like, what are you doing to shut down WikiLeaks? Nothing, man. Nothing, dude. Because he's not really he's not feeding these people, right? And unless he's feeding their stuff little mind. He's not giving them money. He's not giving them sex. He's not giving them anything else. It's just a chance for them to think that there's some weird CIA operative agent, whatever, right? These guys are simple people that think they're going to get away with it and everything. If I was a counterintelligence guy, man, I would wake up to my coffee, go to WikiLeaks, and I says, who am I going to arrest today? Because basically, I don't have to go look for anyone. They're doing the job for me. They're saying, dude, this guy's committing burglary over here. It's be like I'm a detective. I wake up and I open a page on the net. Who burglarized someone's house yesterday? Up. I go over there and lock them up because they just gave me the information. It helps a lot of my case, right? Okay, so there's leakage. It looks bad, and everyone goes, "Oh, Julian Assange should go to jail." Put on the tinfoil hat. How do you know he wasn't being paid by the U.S. just to do that? I would do it if I was a counterintelligence guy. Hey, if they stole the information from me, I would prefer that it not get leaked. But once they get it out of the secured environment, all right, you have to assume that it's been leaked. Look, they cut it to a thumb drive. No one's ever accessed that thumb drive. But that thumb drive got out of the environment, which it shouldn't have been in the first place. Right? You can't prove anyone saw it, but you have to assume someone did. So,
can I say something relating to that? I finished college early. Okay, I graduated high school in 1977, and I graduated college in '80. And what was the big thing that happened in 1979? The Iranians took over the American embassy.
Yeah.
All right, and we have a connection to two of those hostages, okay? One of them was the priest from Joliet, okay? And then the other one was Colonel Leland Holland, okay? Colonel Holland was from an area, Corners, in Galena, okay? But he had a nephew that went to school with me at St. Xavier, okay? And we had a professor, Dr. James Linger, okay? Fantastic guy, all right? And this was during the hostage crisis. And what the Iranians did, now you're talking about in about 3 years, it'll be 50 years ago. But the Iranians sent a packet to the families of every hostage. And in it was top secret communiques from the federal government to the embassy. And the guy brought in the paperwork. And Dr. Linger pointed out that even though they got it from the enemy, that's top secret information, and everybody in the class saw it. Okay, and that was done intentionally, and it was done by the Iranians to foment some
distrust,
sympathy.
to undermine the government, to undermine the public's trust in their own government.
Right, but that is used many times by the enemy to like the Zimmerman cable in between Germany and Mexico in World War I, and things like that. Things like that are done purposely, and they're done, and that in itself is a treasonous act. Now, I'm not talking about what the student did. I'm talking about what was communicated to the United States and things like that. And it's kind of like Mata Hari stuff or Tokyo Rose stuff or whatever. So that is, you're right, that is a major tool in the psyop of the enemy.
Yes.
Right? And it's sad that we've got one of the club of 100 that did it on his own, and a guy who potentially could be our next president. People are pushing him now, but it's really sad what this country's really come to. Well, and there's no unity in both people.
I think there is unity. I really think there is unity, but it's getting drowned out by the press. The press has a loudspeaker, a megaphone, blinding lights. All right, blinding lights, and they have the worst. They have the worst smell emitter ever, and they just over saturate you with this, right? With what they want to say. But in the end, there's still a good selection of people. We have a caller here, right?
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Hey, Larry.
What I want to say is, how do you define free speech with what we're going on with treason? People say it's a free speech.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not.
Okay.
Once you signed that non-disclosure agreement, it's no longer free speech. You give up your rights to certain free speech. Larry, okay, listen. Your girlfriend or your wife or something tells you something in the utmost trust, right?
Happens every day.
She tells you that in the utmost trust. And then you're being interviewed on TV in front of Jimmy Kimmel or something, and you bring it out. Well, my wife just told me last night into the internet, into the international, thing out there. Do you think you had a right to do that? I mean, it's free speech, right? Wait, it's free speech. Should she? I'm just exercising my free speech. You know what? You're in a relationship with the government when you sign these non-disclosure acts. When you have a security clearance and access, you're in a relationship, much like a marriage relationship. I used to describe my Army career as I have a codependent relationship with the Army, and a codependent relationship isn't a good thing. Right?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
You're in blood with the Army.
In blood, oh my, But you give it up, and it's and I'm going to talk about this, the greater good, right? So if I have this information and I realize that, oh my God, my political opponent, this will crush him, but we'll probably lose the war and we'll be under a dictatorship. But I'll tell you what, it would have been my political opponent that lost the war because I released this information. So, in fact, you're the one that destroyed the country, not your political opponent. That information was there. You used it to destroy him, which destroyed the country. All right? Who's more guilty? All right? Who's more? Okay. I'm a 5-year-old. All right? Okay. And I find my uncle's gun under a bed. Right? And I go and I blow my 2-year-old sister's head off because she's crying too much. Who's at fault? Who's more at fault? The 5-year-old or the guy with the gun under the bed?
The guy with the gun, of course.
All right, so look at this, all right? the guy shouldn't have had the gun there, right? But who taught the 5-year-old to pull the trigger on that gun? And how come that 5-year-old wasn't supervised? A lot of questions there. But when it comes down to it, your public people, and I understand, all right? The thing is, keep your mouth shut for the good of the country and everything. But people want to have their 5 seconds of fame. So you find a classified thing, or you're there and you inadvertently pick up something classified, right? And you tell everyone, look what I found. And you got your 5 seconds of fame. And meanwhile, 2 of our destroyers get sunk because of what you put out there. Well, I thought it was wrong that we should have this. Personally, I thought it was wrong, and I got these guys killed. But I've never been in the military. I don't know anything about international affairs, but I personally thought it was wrong. So I'm using my free speech because I found this thing. I'm using my free speech to give it out. Yes, okay, free speech, dude. You never signed a non-disclosure statement or anything. But you're a piece of that's more wrong than what was wrong. All right. When do 2 wrongs make a right?
Would we classify them as Quislings or Neville Chamberlain types?
Neville Chamberlain.
All right. You know what? This is never talked about, but there was a guy named Congressman Andy May from Kentucky.
All right.
In 1940, you ever heard of him? Very few people know about this, but he publicly said that U.S. submarines were surviving because Japanese depth charges were set to explode too shallow.
Dude should have been. All right, dude should have been put in prison for that. People should have been. Everyone lost. Every American submarine that was lost to Japanese action. After that, their families should hate this guy forever. Yes. Okay. What? Dive deeper. Hey, same thing here. You know what they didn't bring out, right? World War II, they captured a Japanese Zero, right? Supposed to be the best aircraft of the war, and it really wasn't because it sacrificed a lot of stuff for some performance enhancements, right? But as soon as they captured this, right, they figured out that if you banked to the left, if you did a roll out to the left, the Zero couldn't follow you because they had sacrificed hydraulics, right, for weight, right, and that they needed more strength to bank the Zero to the left. It would it was either left or right, right? It would naturally go to the right if you let go. The torque of the engine would pull it to the right, so it was real easy to bank to the right in the Zero. So most people being right-handed, they want to bank to the right, all right? To get away. You're going to turn away to get away from that fire, and the Zero just follows you easily. But if you bank to the left with your hydraulic stick, right, and you go to the left, the Zero couldn't follow you. As soon as they found that out, do you think they told the Japanese, hey, we figured you out, buddy? The Japanese were surprised. They're like, holy cow, all of a sudden, the whole air war has changed. All right? Keep your mouth shut.
You know what? It was a capture, but you're describing the event that the Japanese Zero landed at the island of Niihau right after Pearl Harbor. The Japanese were told, in case things don't work out, we'll have submarines for you. Anyways, the Japanese Zero landed at Niihau, and the inhabitants didn't know anything about Pearl Harbor, but a few of them were Japanese descent and decided to help the Zero pilot, who was later killed in an armed struggle. And that event of having Japanese helping the pilot caused also people to say we need to detain these people.
All right, so that gets into more stuff, but I think that the Zero that they had was from Dutch Harbor. All right, so
I think that's correct,
it was in Alaska.
Yeah.
The Zero Mike's talking about was Alaska.
What I'm saying is that
landed on the tundra.
That information could be extrapolated or whatever.
But Larry's also right that was a great concern because those were first and second generation Japanese, and that's what caused what some say is the overreaction of the internment camp.
There's no
Larry's
overreaction.
Right about that.
And you know what? Who was the Attorney General of California who signed off on that, saying we should do that?
It was later on the head of the Supreme Court.
That's right, Earl Warren. And guess who's vilified to this very day from the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. Now, I'm not saying he was pro-Japanese American, but he said there was no proof that the FBI would not get involved in this.
Okay, so we're kind of getting off track with this, too, right?
I know, but that's the fun part of your job.
Yeah.
One thing leads to another road. All right, guys, you are the best. I love to listen to you every week, and, you make radio what it is. What I love to hear. Conflict.
Thanks, Larry.
When I get on there, I'm like, oh, my God, I'm energized for the entire day,
Nice, thanks.
All right?
Thanks,
Thank
Larry.
you, guys. Good luck to you.
Yeah. So,
Can I say something,
Yes.
though, to a point that Larry made and to a point that you're making? Do you know who was Justice White's first name?
Barry?
Byron?
Byron, all right.
You know who he was?
Larry said he was the Attorney General of California for a while.
Yeah, but you know who he was in college?
No.
Whizzer White, famous football player. Okay. You wanna
So
know
he had
something?
TBI. He had a lot of TBI because they didn't wear good helmets back
No,
then.
it's even worse than that, but it goes to your point exactly on the show. Okay. What happened in the Pacific to John F. Kennedy?
Well, he got, his PT boat was destroyed by a Japanese destroyer, hit it,
Right.
split it in half.
Right. And what happened after that?
Well, he got him in a life. They got in a life raft, and he
After
pulled
the
him to an
coconut
island.
incident,
Well, he had a
what
real bad
happened?
back. He had a real severe back
Well,
injury.
what happened after the coconut incident?
I don't know.
There was an inquiry.
Yeah, there's
You know
always
who
going to
was
be an
the head of the
inquiry.
You know who was the head of the inquiry?
Byron.
Whizzer White. And what happens to Whizzer White? Gets on the Supreme Court.
All right, so yeah, okay, so we're putting into some things. So you did have a connection, but here's the thing, right? There's always going to be an inquiry when you lose a major piece of equipment, all right? And they survived, right? So you want to have what we call in the military an after-action review, all right? And I don't know, I'm not going to disparage John F. Kennedy. I could disparage a lot of his family, but I'm not going to disparage him, all right? He's a veteran and everything else. But the thing is, yeah, you might have some underlings that say, no, I don't think we should have done that. I think it's pretty, it's pretty messed up. I got kids out there. Wave at the kids. Do you want to get on?
That's David's son, David Tease.
Oh, David Tease?
Yeah,
All right.
that's his son.
Well, Dave's not here. Dave's not here, man. Okay. Anyways, so they have the after action review and everything. And yes, why did this happen? How did it happen? Didn't we have the right tactics? Were they operating outside of the orders or outside of the parameters? Was the ship not upgraded right? Were they not doing this? Were they not doing that? That happens. That's going to happen. All right. So it kind of sounds like disparaging that they had an inquiry. It's like, oh my God, they had an inquiry. So you can, again, wordsmith this stuff, right? Inquiry. Now, inquiry implies that you're looking for something that was wrong, right, Paul?
Or you demand an inquiry to have your name cleared.
Yes.
For a future run, because your brother had just been killed and he was the guy that was going to be the first Catholic president. And then now, and I have nothing against President Kennedy. I think it was fantastic. All right. Yeah. But when you look at the long-term goals of everything, it starts to make sense and it falls into place.
Okay. So like wordsmithing, inquiry, in being in PSYOPs, I know a little bit about, haven't been in PSYOPs, I know a little bit about this, but after action review, it's kind of, that's more neutral, all right? It's a more neutral word, all right? So how you work, you can lean something to sound very bad, right? When, dihydrogen oxide, a person drinks dihydrogen oxide every day, what's it going to do to them, right? And they're like, whoa, oh my God, that sounds like a deadly chemical. It'll kill him. It's water, right? It's how you wordsmith this stuff. But when we're getting to this with the classified stuff and open your mouth and everything, and yes, your point's taken in this, right? If it hadn't had an inquiry, an after-action review, making a big thing out of it, would they have made a movie about it? Wouldn't it have become, it's a thing of legend. PT 109, right? You got a PT 109 Thai class? Because I do. You know, it's a thing of legend.
I've got a PT 109 Kennedy GI Joe, and I've got a PT 109 model. In fact, I have two.
Okay, you outdid me there.
Yeah, but my point is, and I just looked it up. They had crossed paths because Whizzer was I believe a Rhodes Scholar. They had crossed paths, you know, out east, but their friendship only deepened after the inquiry, and they remained lifelong friends, and Kennedy molded his legal future.
Hey, if you can't bring your friends along, what's the point?
If you can't help your family, who can you help, you know?
All right, we'll be back for the last quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic show. The Republic Radio Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday noon until 2. And today, at my Post 104 American Legion meeting, me and the boys and friends of the Legion are welcome. You know, no charge. We're going to be watching the Carano and Rousey fight. You know, I love Gina. Man, her smile just devastates me. Oh my God, I melt. She doesn't need to punch me or kick me. Just smile at me and watch me curl up on a ball on the ground, you know, and cry because I'm way too old, you know. But so, all right. So, Paul, that's a good kind of tie-in here, because what we have with this Kelly guy, and I think is he's zooming up a run for president, right? He's got. He could be leading the ticket, but except for the fact that he's a white guy. He's a white male. Isn't he? Aren't we the problem now?
He's a spaceman, too.
He's a spaceman. He's privileged beyond belief, right? He's not enlisted. Yep. He's an officer. Now, did he serve in Vietnam?
No, he's too young for that.
All right, as a Navy aviator, maybe did he fly a couple MiG sorties in Desert Storm? Maybe.
Don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? But he hasn't said that he has, so he probably hasn't. I haven't checked this thing, but all right. So he comes out there.
I know that he's got an AR-15, but he was one of the ones that wanted to try to ban him. So that's all I know, and I do know what happened to his wife, and I feel sorry about that.
It's a shame. It's a shame. You know, that shouldn't happen to anyone.
I do know about that.
But, you know, because that wasn't because of policies. That was because of crackpot. You can't. Could we have a law against crackpots?
You could, but it would be unenforceable.
Yeah. So what do you know? But the thing is, all right, so no, any publicity is good publicity. You know, get your name in the papers, get name recognition out there. Mark Kelly, never Trumper. You know, look, he's not liberal, he's conservative. He was a astronaut for, you know, he's an astronaut and everything. He comes out there and he does the dumbest thing, all right, the dumbest thing to get his name in the paper. Did this guy balance out? Is this good for me to get a little bit more publicity? Yes, it's good for me, publicity. Is it bad for the country and put us behind the 8 ball? Well, yeah, but it's good for me. So that negates everything because it's good for him. That's what you call a narcissistic sociopath. Right there. Right there, the definition. It's good for him. It's good for everyone. That's all. That's all that matters. All right. So makes the regime look bad puts soldiers and sailors. Now, to talk about this, people go.
He flew 38 missions in an A6E intruder during the Gulf War. 39 missions.
Okay, 39 sorties. Good for him. Good for him. And I can't tell you how many times I left the gate in a Hummer. All right. So, and we were on the ground, and we were within rifle range and landmine range and everything else. You know? And the enemy was on the ground too. And there wasn't a lot of enemy. And they all did a great job. Let's put it that way. But here's what I'm going to get. All right. So the president at any time can use his authority as president to force any U.S. company to manufacture anything, all right, for war, right, for national defense purposes. Right? So if he comes out and openly tells Raytheon, Lockheed, any one of these other contractors that I need you to make immediately these specific things, even though we can't pay you for them yet, you're going to make them regardless. Maybe you get paid for them in the future, but you're going to make them. All right? We're that desperate for him right now, and he's going to come out and he's going to say that in my presidential authority, I'm going to force you to do this, which he could. All right? So now American is going to look and say, why does he have to force them to do that? Aren't they patriotic enough to do it themselves? Like the guys building all these victory ships in World War II, you know? Or, you know, he could go, you know, in private conversations, bring in these CEOs and say, dudes, step it up. Step up your manufacturing programs. Okay? We got some people with the mommies didn't give them enough attention because their little engines on their little Toyotas and stuff, their sewing machines, they're revving them out here in front of the radio station. So, yeah, kind of adding some sound. Yeah, it's very small engines. They got very small engines. Yeah. So, okay. So what I'm saying is that he can do this, right, in a quiet way where no one knows about it. If he comes out and says this openly and forcing the thing to do it, then our adversaries out there can extrapolate the information that we're desperate for these types of munition, that we're desperate for them now, that we must be out of them or something. I highly doubt we're ever out of them, right? But I could, being an intelligence analyst, I can extrapolate lots of information from little things, right? Because we call them indicators. If this basic thing, if the air defense artillery is moving forward, moving to the front with the ground troops, all right? That's an indicator of a possible attack because your air defense artillery only has so much range. So you want to cover the attack, you want to cover the troops moving forward. So you move forward to be with them, right? Indicator that there's going to be an attack, all right? So president coming out ordering someone to make a lot more stuff is an indicator that we're short of it or we're desperate for it. To have some congressman come out of a classified briefing and actually state that, right? Where we don't know that he was told that in a classified briefing. He could be interpreting that. So are all of our units 100% combat ready going into combat? No.
Never.
You know, they're never. All right? So you could say, oh, we're not 100%. And you'd be truthful. But what do we say? We say we're 100. I'm a leader. I say, my guys are 100%. They're ready to go. We're trained up as much as we can, right? But that's never true. Right? But if you word it the right way, you can make it seem like, oh, well, we're not even up to 100%. We shouldn't go anywhere. Okay then. Wordsmith it, dude. So all you're doing is going against the policies of the administration. All right? So, Paul, is there a such thing as a neutral?
A neutral?
Yeah, neutral party.
Well, there might be a party who's uninterested, unaffected, or uncaring, but no one's ever neutral.
That's true. All right. So by not backing one side or the other, you were actually backing one side. All right. So,
or you're backing a third side.
Or you are the third side.
Same difference.
All right.
So you're not in the fray. You're keeping back because you're
going to pick up the pieces at the end.
Right.
So I could say one thing that I think that this Senator Kelly is one of those third party people. All right. Because he should be all about the United States, and he should think, is my big mouth worth more for me or worth more for the country? Okay, it's not good for the country, so I'll keep my mouth shut.
Well, I would say he's got a vested interest in seeing a failure here.
Wait, okay, does the country have a vested interest in the failure?
No, that would be bad.
Okay, so exactly what I said. It's good for him, but not for the country. He's a narcissistic sociopath. He doesn't care. He's from Arizona. He cares about him. Maybe he cares about his wife, right? And he cares about no one else outside of his reach. Outside of the reach of his arms, he could care less, because that's what he said when he made that statement to the press. I care less about anyone in the United States. I only care right now that I get elected president. And I promise you, if I get elected president, everything's going to be better. I promise. We've heard that, haven't we? We've heard it all the time. Do not give aid and comfort to the enemy in any way, shape, and form. If you're so upset, keep your mouth shut. Walk away, because then you avoid regret.
Enemy is my friend.
Not true. Absolutely not true. That is the biggest lie in the world, all right? So dig it. In Bosnia, right? And they said that about the Bosnian Muslims. The Croatians said that about them, because the Croatians were fighting the Serbs, right? But they didn't have the manpower to out-manpower the Serbs. So they allied themselves with the Muslims. And as soon as the zone of separation was set up and the fighting stopped between the Serbs and the Croatians and the Muslims did a land grab on the Croatians. They were not their friends. They were, what do you call it? Unlikely or strange bedfellows. That's all they were, strange bedfellows. And they were just waiting for the stop to go on and do a land grab. All right, so the enemy of my enemy is my possible ally for a short period of time. That's all I'm saying. They're not your friend.
You want to know something really wild?
What?
He left NASA in I believe it was 2011. Okay, and in 2013 he co-founded the Tucson-based high-altitude balloon exploration company called Worldview Enterprises, and China invested millions of dollars into Worldview from 2013 to 2016.
How much money did they get back on that? Did the Chinese make a profit on that, or did they lose money? Because sometimes the Chinese just throw money and lose it because they're only buying influence. They're not truly investing. That's what we call a money laundered bribe.
That's what I'm saying. And he left the company in 2019 because he was running for the Senate.
Well, how much did he make off the company? Did it say what it started at? You know, that would be my question. If I'm doing investigative reporting or a thing, I says, okay, so he opened up this company and he still has 100,000. If this is correct, as of his campaign in 2021, he still has over 100,000 in stock
in the company through a blind trust.
100,000 units of stock or $100,000 invested?
The investment was valued at over 100,000.
Oh,
Could
well,
be a
100,
million.
that's really a drop in the bucket for one of those companies. That's like,
Yeah, but
that's
it's
what they
still
get.
a pecuniary interest.
Yes.
And it's a pecuniary interest in.
Explain the word pecuniary.
Well, it's money or benefit that you're going to get, but it's still an interest, especially when one of our adversaries is China, and his company's partners with China, and he was partners with China.
It's a little hard to find a company that isn't kind of partners with China, but you know what? That's interesting because, all the people against Trump screamed that, the military can't use any of his hotels because he's got a financial interest in that.
And I'll give you another one from 2011, after he left Congress. I mean, after he left the space program, to 2016, he was paid to deliver speeches in both the U.S. and China.
That's money laundering. That's pure money laundering. Like, look at Clinton. They hired him to give speeches in Russia.
Behalf of Shackley, which is a multi-level marketing distributor of nutritional supplements.
So what does he know about marketing? What was his degree in aeronautics?
China, but he's been to China.
Yeah. How is it pronounced? China, right? Wait, how is it properly pronounced? China. China. Yeah. Well, hey.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say the big money's there, but here's the thing. In China, there's really no oversight to the way they spend that money. And it's a totalitarian dictatorship. And what the Politburo there wants to do, they do, whether it is moral, whether it is ethical, they don't care. They do what betters not necessarily the people of China, but what betters them. And so we got a few minutes, and I'm going to talk this out a little bit. And people are wondering, why couldn't we just smash these guys in Persia, all right, in the Persian area, in Iran there, smash them, and how come, if we're winning, how come they haven't given up? Because we've done the shock and awe. Well, look at Germany in World War II, right? They lost the war completely. There's zero chance. All the generals and everything knew there was zero chance, absolutely zero chance that they were going to win anything, right? As soon as the Soviets stepped across the German border, they should have sued for absolute peace any way they could have, right? Because they had lost. They had lost. When the U.S. entered Germany, absolutely, they should have come. It was gone. The whole thing was gone. Yeah, they had a few troops left in the Balkans, right? But it was all gone. But still, they all fought to the end. All the senior leaders, some officers that did some very heinous things. They were fighting for their own survival. They wanted to live to the next day, so they weren't going to surrender because they'd either be killed by their own people, the troops, or they're going to face Nuremberg trials. Same thing in Japan. Knew the war was gone. Knew it was lost. They would have fought down to the last Japanese civilian to make sure that they didn't see that end of the rope. Because they were responsible for heinous war crimes. So they're not going to say, we lost the war, we should surrender, we should save the Japanese people, the civilians, and Okinawa and everywhere else, and all the bombings in Tokyo and everywhere. We should save those civilians because we're not going to win the war. It's a last-ditch effort. We're just going to commit self-genocide, suicidal self-genocide. But no, those guys were like, oh, no. I like being alive. I like being a general. I'm going to fight to the absolute last minute with everyone else's blood. Okay? Same thing over there. For the last how many years, Paul? 47 years? They've been the most brutal, totalitarian, human rights violating regime, next to Idi Amin and everything else. Terrible, absolute terrible regime. All right? 40,000 people at a crack just gunned down, executed for not thinking right, for having wrong think. All right? And these guys know that there's nowhere on earth that they could go where they would be safe. They would be safe from retaliation. So, of course, they're going to fight down to the absolute last Iranian, the absolute last Persian, so that they are, the second to last, because they'll be the last. They're going to make sure, just like Hitler, when everything's gone, when finally gone and there's only like 5 people around me, then I might eat my gun, right? But until then, they're going to let everything else burn down around them. So until you get the people to get them out of there, they're just going to use the people as shields and everything. So yeah, it's a siege. It's going to be a siege mentality. Can it end faster? It's not going to end faster until the people take it into their own hands, their own people. I would be greatly upset if we put boots on ground. Absolutely upset. Absolutely 100% completely upset. We did that in Afghanistan. Didn't work out. But we won the war in 2 weeks. We should have got out of there. We could probably do it again and get out of there, but the State Department would screw it all up. I'm pretty sure that our MARSOC guys, our Special Forces guys, our Rangers are quite capable of going in there and just wiping out their military and wiping out their command structure. On the ground, boots on ground and doing it. Now, who do they turn it over to? Does anyone out there got the... And if you say the Crown Prince of Iran... No kings, but we want the Crown Prince in there. No kings, but we want the... Well, he's not a king, he's a Shah now, because... He's their poster boy, right? Oh, no. What organization that's there now that's going to have legitimacy and have the backing of the people and be able to take over that country right now? I don't know. If there is one, then the war will get over. Man, it's going to be a minute. It's going to be a minute. Take a deep breath. This too will pass, right? This too will pass. And I think the people, if we're hurting here, trust me, the Chinese are really hurting because they get their oil from Iran, and we've blockaded Iran, and the oil can't get out. So now
the stories I've heard are that they're going to run out of their free supply of oil by June the 8th in China, and then that's going to cause them to undergo.
Well, they could buy it from us. We'll sell it to them.
Yeah, but that's going to undergo some restrictions and rationing, and that won't be good for their economy.
It won't be good for their people either. And then they're going to be defending themselves.
Hey, Mike, I don't think it's good for their people now, but it could get worse.
How much worse can it get?
It can't get any worse. And then the meteorite falls on you. You know what I'm saying?
The funniest thing was in the Army, and this was a major in the Army, and this is years back, right? This is in the 90s, after 92, after Soviet Union became Russia, and all these little satellite states separated off. And she goes, "Oh, I don't see why we maintain this big military and all. Communism, there's no more communist countries." I says, China, Cuba, North Korea, Belarus, Turkmenistan. I'm like, yes, there are still threats. There are still threats on this. But, Vietnam, just a little, throw that one in there. All right, so I'm taking a deep breath. I went to fill up my car with gas today. Yes, close to $6, like, yay. But hey, I've got to burn it, right? I got to I'm going to drive. I'm going to pay a little more in the great hopes that this stuff is going to come down in the future until July 1st. What happens on July 1st, Paul? Right before the long weekend?
Gas prices go up.
50 cents. State tax. Governor Pritzker, 50 cent raising the price, the gas tax. 50 cents. And look at our roads. All right. So
have a great week, everyone.
have a great week. And remember, if you don't have anything good to say, it's probably not good to say it. Peace out.
Bye.
When our nation calls, patriots answer. The U.S. Volunteers Joint Service Command stands ready, honoring our fallen heroes through military funeral honors and serving communities during natural disasters and emergencies. If you're 18 or older, you can serve close to home with free training and just one Saturday